e lui agisce sempre subito. Avete capito? Avete capito? Hanno capito. Molto bene. Bentrovati, bentrovati amici, soprattutto amiche del Bike&Raft. Questo appuntamento del martedì dove ci vediamo la rumenta del web. Grande lezione di vita, esatto Antonio, esattamente. Richard, sempre nel nostro cuore, vero maestro, ci ha accompagnato per tanti anni e ora starà imbruttendo anche il demonio. Un saluto, salutiamo gli amici che sono qua con noi oggi, il Bondario, Gian, Sky Surfer, Blaster, Danny, Giamaica, Mia, Deidara, Tony, Adolfo, Antonio, Ismaele, chi c'è? Gastli, Claudio, Alessandro, Francesco, Nirius, Sitar, Davide, Yomi, c'è anche il Sommo, che c'è, pensaci, ciao Angelo, Luca e Tuor, cioè, io sono tuo padre, no, mio papà si chiama Bruno. Allora, vediamoci un po' di rumenta che oggi mi hanno segnalato gli amici del gruppo dei sub. Qua ringraziamo, anzi, non ringraziamo un cazzo. Il buon Dave che ci ha passato questo schifo. E quindi cominciamo. Oggi il trittico è questo primo video che si intitola esattamente, ora vi leggo appena, eccolo qua. If this is why Kaido went to Marineford, it's huge. Quindi se questo è il perché Kaido è andato a Marineford, è enorme. Pensiamoci. Poi c'è un altro video incredibile del maestro Ohara, che volevo tanto vedere e poi non l'avevo più visto, che è questo qua, che si intitola Come abbiamo fatto a perdere questa mitica connessione tra Rufy e Zoro per 25 anni. E poi c'è l'ultimo video, che è la perla di oggi, che dura ben 38 minuti, e dice: penso di aver risolto One Piece. E Oda è un pazzo. Perfetto, direi che abbiamo tutto, non manca niente, e quindi direi di passare, di switchare a questa versione infernale. Prendiamo, ecco qua, devo ribaltare i colori, scusatemi, i colori, modifica filtro, qua è invertito, ok, aspetta, così, perfetto, lo allargo, lo metto in così no, mi serve metterlo in modalità eccolo qua, perfetto, abbasso, non ti muovere troppo e via, possiamo cominciare. Se siete pronti, questo video è del maestro Marshall D. Preach, che è uno delle fonti. Che cazzo ho combinato? No. Questo è Ohara. Non voglio vedere Ohara adesso. Prima questo. Questo è Benson. Maledizione.
Questo è matto, ragazzi.
Cosa sta succedendo? Aspetta. Devo riaprire. Ok, perfetto.
Why did Kaido and King go to Marine?
Eccolo qui. A me fanno già spisciare che fanno ste cose con le frasi che escono fuori. Siamo pronti? Siamo pronti. Allora, è che Cristo, ole. Ci siamo. Scusate, via.
Why did Kaido and King go to Marineford? According to the world government, it was because he wanted to take Whitebeard's head, but let's just be honest. How much can we trust what they say? What if I told you that Kaido and King went to Marineford?
Sottotitoli, scusate, mi stavo dimenticando, io stavo brutalmente ascoltando, ma... velocità un cacchio. Sottotitoli, qua, disattivati. E li facciamo... Perché sta laggando così? No, sta andando così lento il computer. Allora, inglese, generati automaticamente e traduzione automatica. Ecco qua. Italiano. Quindi ricomincio e partiamo. Allora, via.
Why did Kaido and King go to Marineford? According to the world government, it was because he wanted to take Whitebeard's head, but let's just be honest. How much can we trust what they say? What if I told you that Kaido and King went to Marineford because they thought that Ace was Joy Boy and that it was the beginning of the final war, which many wise men always bring up? What if I also told you that other men such as Whitebeard and Shanks may have also believed that Ace was in fact Joy Boy at a certain point in their life, but just like Kaido eventually came to the conclusion that it was in fact Luffy. Wizard of Oars here, and today we'll be discussing an ultimate Joy Boy theory that I made on my previous channel about the downfall and expectation of a young man named Ace.
Quindi la teoria che Ace fosse Joy Boy. Ace fosse Joy Boy. Perfetto. Perfetto. Perfetto.
Decided to remake the theory because it barely had any views, and there's a ton of more new stuff that I wanted to put in. Please remember to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, if you enjoy crazy theories with even crazier connections. Thanks a lot guys, and now let's get into it. When Kaido defeated Luffy for the second time, he says, "You couldn't be Joy Boy either, it seems." What does he mean?
Di quanto tempo è questo Teo? Di luglio. Luglio era già finita Wano, no? Voglia, stava finendo.
Either. It seems as if he thought that someone else was Joy Boy before he met Luffy. Now, many people used to think that he thought he himself could have been Joy Boy, but I don't think that was ever the case. We learned through Kaido's flashbacks that he thought that Joy Boy would be the one to defeat him. We also learned that he never knew about this legend of a man named Joy Boy until King told him about it. He also mentions that Yamato even knows about it, which we the readers know she learned from Oden's journal. Another thing Kaido learned.
Perché Oden l'hanno tradotto Odino? Diario di Odino. Bellissimo.
Was that Oden was waiting for Joy Boy's return to Wano. Every one of these things Kaido knows might be significant to the reason for him pulling up to Marineford. First of all, we saw how loud and proud Yamato was about her beliefs against her father. This is how she told Kaido about Joy Boy, but she probably also
che cazzo, partono gli annunci. Maledizione. Maledizione.
told him other things as well. One of these things may have been that Ace would be the one.
I think
Devo andare su Chrome. Devo andare su Chrome che c'ho attivo il block annunci. Maledizione. Non lo uso mai, perché non si deve fare. Però stavolta lo facciamo, sennò diventa veramente una merda. Allora, fammi un attimo switchare da questa parte. Scusatemi ancora per questa brutta cosa. Chrome. Fammi aprire Chrome. Fammi aprire Chrome. Ecco qua. Quindi. Allargati, modalità C.
Why did Kaido and King go to Marineford? According to the world government.
Quindi allarga. Ok, siamo arrivati più o meno qua. Dove che siamo arrivati di qua? Aspetta. Chiudi, chiudi, chiudi. Qua. Qua. Quindi devo rimettere impostazioni, sottotitoli, inglese. Traduzione automatica, italiano, che poi sono tradotti veramente di merda perché non ha messo i sottotitoli. Oh, che cazzo di lingua è questa? Armeno. Armeno tu. Armeno tu. Allora. Dai, ce la puoi fare. Perfetto. Scusate.
Against her father. This is how she told Kaido about Joy Boy, but she probably also told him other things as well. One of these things may have been that Ace would be the one to come and take his head. I mean, Ace did tell her himself that he was going to defeat Kaido and save the land of Wano. Kaido even most likely saw the dragon statue that Ace destroyed. Maybe this is when he first started questioning who Ace truly was. Who knows, Yamato may have even just straight up said that she believes Ace is Joy Boy because it lines up with a lot of the prophecy in Oden's journal. First off, it's right around the 20-year timeline. Oden said that someone would come to save Wano in 20 years, and Ace said he's gonna return to save Wano within the 16 to 18-year timeline. This probably made Yamato think that he'd surely come around the 20-year mark with a much bigger army to save her and the land of Wano. She also knew of Ace's raw strain since she fought him herself. Ace also fits the description of the new generation of pirates since he was a young man who skyrocketed through the ranks. So now, going back to what Kaido believed, Kaido probably thought that out of any of the new generation of pirates, Ace would have the highest potential to defeat him and be Joy Boy. Ace has.
Questa teoria è figa comunque, non è malvagia, Non è malvagia, c'ha C'ha del buon materiale dentro, c'è del buon materiale. Cioè, alla fine Yamato pensava davvero che lui potesse esserlo, no? L'aveva detto anche quando poi l'aveva trovato davanti, aveva scoperto poi chi era, e quindi lei credeva che appunto lui sarebbe tornato, avrebbe sconfitto Kaido. Poi quando ha scoperto che Ace è morto durante Marineford, si è ricordata di Rufy. E quindi ci può stare. Ci può stare, ci
The
può
genes of
stare.
the actual Pirate King, the motivation and will to become a conqueror, and the backup of Whitebeard leading him to glory. Kaido probably thought everything was set up for this kid to succeed and be the Joy Boy that King and Odin are waiting for. In my opinion, I can even see Kaido or King thinking even more highly of Ace if they knew that Joy Boy is also the Sun God. If they knew this, then they may have even thought that Ace's Devil Fruit had the ability of the Sun God since it's literally fire. I could honestly see this happening since it seems that Kaido had no clue of the Nika Fruit. As he was fighting Luffy, he kept wondering what Luffy was doing, if his fruit was even a paramecia, and what the heck this crazy transformation is that allows him to turn white and punch him through his eyeballs. Basically, Kaido had no idea what was going on and why the awakening of his fruit was so weird. Since Kaido didn't know about the existence of a Nika Fruit or awakening, he may have thought that Ace best resembled Joy Boy and the Sun God itself. Now, the
Il problema secondo me sta comunque nel fatto che Kaido non è che avesse idea di chi cazzo fosse Ace. Perché chi cazzo era Ace? No, certo che mi piacciono RH, cioè sono divertenti. Ma no, se non fosse divertente io le cose non le faccio. Cioè la mia priorità è divertirmi. Quindi se non mi diverto non lo faccio. Non è per il content, è perché mi diverto. Ma letteralmente, cioè per me sono spassose e a volte hanno anche dei contenuti interessanti. Questo è interessante. Però ecco, Ace non era così mediaticamente esposto come lo era Rufy ultimamente. Cioè, l'unica cosa di rilievo era che gli avevano dato con largo anticipo una richiesta per entrare nei sette corsari, che lui ha rifiutato, come tutti sappiamo. Oltre a questo, era semplicemente il numero 2, cioè il secondo comandante della flotta di Newgate. Poi non è che avesse mai avuto chissà che momenti di eccellenza, per quanto noi ne sappiamo, no? E dubito che Yamato gli abbia mai raccontato qualcosa di questo stronzetto che è venuto su Wano a rubargli i prigionieri e a rompergli la statua. Cioè, è bella l'idea, eh? Però è un po' lacunosa, secondo me.
whole Kaido thinking Ace was the Sun God too is more
Vediamo.
into the speculation of things, since we technically don't know if King knows about the existence of the Sun God Nika or not, but I'm just throwing out all the possibilities. So now, with everything I've now explained, I wonder if Kaido and King headed to Marineford to save Ace because they thought he was Joy Boy. As of right now, all we know about Kaido heading there is that it was him and King. We don't know if Queen went, the Toby Roppo, or even any of the Beast Pirates besides the captain and his right-hand man. First off, I just want to state how dope it would be to see Kaido and King flying over to Marineford without any ship or crew. Like, that's straight up something you'd see in a Berserk panel. Next, I'd like to point out that since it was only King and Kaido, it really does seem as if they were going for Joy Boy. As of right now, it seems those two are the only Beast Pirates that are interested in the legend itself. On top of this, what if they weren't only going there for Ace, but what if they also wanted to see the beginning of the final war? In Odin's flashback, we see that at Laughtail, he learned about a massive war that will split the seas themselves. Not only this, but we've also seen other characters that learned what the One Piece is, bringing up how there will be a war or how the world will be flipped. Now, I'm not trying to say that Kaido knew what the One Piece was, but what if he also heard about the rumors of a prophecy that a world war will happen? What if he also thought that this war was starting to take place at Marineford? I mean, there were some pretty huge names that were there, like Shanks, Whitebeard, Blackbeard, Mihawk, Doflamingo, the rest of the warlords, the Admiral.
Sta un po'. Sta un po' tirando. Allora, Emeni, questa teoria che dice it's huge, dice se questo, quello che lui sta raccontando, fosse il motivo per cui Kaido è andato a Marineford, allora it's huge. Il motivo è che secondo lui, questa teoria, Ace era considerato da Kaido e King il Joy Boy. Sta elencando una marea di roba, ma in realtà questa marea di roba lascia un po' il tempo che trova, perché sta giustificando cose a posteriori non considerando che Kaido ha tentato di raggiungere Marineford quando ancora Rufy stava in Pell Down, per dire. Quindi ore prima, e non c'era ancora schierato nessuno, a parte gli ammiragli, magari i corsari che stavano ancora dentro nel Marijois. Infatti Teach forse non era neanche arrivato ancora in Pell Down, per dire. Quindi non era ancora schierato un bel cavolo di niente. Non avevo neanche idea se c'erano tutti. Cioè, è un po' tirato. Un po' tirato.
Emeralds and more. Maybe Kaido thought this could in some way be the return of the rocks with him and Whitebeard going against the government just like the old days. I really do think there's a chance of this being true since the first time we're introduced to Kaido, he screams out how he wants to start the greatest war that will destroy the world. I wonder where he got these inspirations and when he started this plan. Maybe he got this idea from rocks, or maybe from King. I mean, King already taught him about what Joy Boy is, so I wouldn't be surprised if he also told him about the prophesized world war. There's still a lot of mysteries to Kaido's character, and I can't wait for Oda to show us his full backstory. Anyways, going back to Kaido going to Marineford for Ace, I believe he wasn't the only one who thought Ace was Joy Boy for a period of time. I truly believe guys like Whitebeard, Shanks, Ray Lee, and Roger himself thought Ace had the potential to change the world. It seemed that Whitebeard wanted Ace to
Non lo sapeva un cazzo di nessuno chi era Ace, è quello il punto. Grazie alla novel abbiamo appunto quella scena in cui Shanks intuisce che lui potrebbe essere effettivamente il figlio di Roger perché collega alcuni elementi, collega il fatto che parla del padre usando il nome intero, dice che è nato nel South Blue e lui sapeva che la madre, che Rouge, stava a batteria nel South Blue, eccetera, eccetera, eccetera. Però a parte Garp e Roger, nessuno sapeva dell'esistenza di Ace, appunto perché questo l'avrebbe protetto da chiunque. Probabilmente neanche Ray sapeva che effettivamente Roger poi avesse avuto questa relazione in cui è nato questo figlio. Quindi sta dicendo un mare di cazzate, un mare di cazzate.
join his crew so he can make him the Pirate King. Sengoku even says that Whitebeard took Ace in before the world government could, so he could make that happen and so he could protect him. I mean, Whitebeard was even willing to die and put everyone's life on the line to save his son. I find it very interesting if Whitebeard believed Ace was Joy Boy, because in Marineford I think he slowly began to realize that it was actually Luffy. In many of my theories I state how in Marineford
Cos'è questo? Cos'è? Un'ora? Un video di un'ora e uno? I think accidentally solved the One Piece. Oda isn't human if this is true. Che cazzo di titoli lerci. Ma guarda quante visualizzazioni. 547.000 visualizzazioni. E una volta ce lo guardiamo questo. Questo è putrefazione assoluta. Il trionfo dell'etame proprio. Bello, vediamo. Andiamo avanti.
Whitebeard started to realize that what Roger told him wasn't just a folktale made by ancient men, but what he told him was in fact a real thing. Joy Boy wasn't just some legend or myth. He saw it with his own eyes as Luffy screams in his face that he will be the Pirate King, even when Whitebeard announces his most famous quote,
One Piece wa 実在する!
He says before how just like there's those that carry Roger's will, someone will also carry on Ace's. In the future, someone carrying the weight of centuries of history on his shoulders will appear, find the One Piece, and destroy the world. He was 100% sure that this would happen because he saw the man that would do it with his own two eyes. Now this is important because there may be a few more parallels with people believing Ace was Joy Boy until they met Luffy. Before discussing the next few parallels, including Shanks and Ray Lee, remember to like the
Sta vaneggiando. Sta vaneggiando.
video if you've liked even one thing that I've said so far. So what if Shanks also thought
Era cominciato bene, no? Sembrava che stesse comunque ragionando e poi sta dicendo un mare di
Ace
cazzate.
was supposed to be Joy Boy and not Luffy? A popular headcanon that goes way back
Cos'è sta immagine terrificante? Shanks was supposed to give Ace the Gon Gon no Mi. Certo. Certo. Perché Shanks ovviamente sapeva che Garp nascondeva Ace sulle montagne. Pensaci.
goes way back in the
Non so
community
cazzate.
and that I've talked about on the channel is that what if Shanks went to Dawn Island to give the Nika fruit to Ace, but then Luffy accidentally ate it. In previous videos regarding Ace and Joy Boy, I've mentioned how Shanks legit seemed upset when Luffy ate the fruit. Another big question that Preach has brought up in the channel is where was Ben Beckman during this scene? Preach made a great theory regarding why it's actually Ben Beckman's master plan to make Luffy Joy Boy, and if you want to know more about it, then I'll leave the link in the description. If the
Che classe, cioè continua a fare spam a tutti gli altri video per fare poi mantenere poi le visualizzazioni sul canale. È un genio, è un genio.
Shanks pirates, or at least Shanks himself, wanted Luffy to eat the devil fruit, then why'd they all react the way they did? At this moment, I think Shanks realized the fate of Luffy, or at least what he could become, and then he knew for sure that he'd be the greatest pirate to ever exist. Maybe Shanks even gave Luffy the straw hat because he knew he would become the sun god Nika. Another thing with Shanks is that what if Shanks stopped Kaido from
E cosa c'entra Ace adesso con sta
going to
roba?
Marineford by convincing him that Ace wasn't Joy Boy? What if he told him that he's 100% positive that it's not Ace because
Si è negato da solo, cioè 8 minuti di video per dire che Shanks in realtà gli ha dato Luffy perché sapeva già che era Nika e quindi Ace chi se lo incula.
he saw it with his own eyes? When Shanks and his crew pull up to Marineford, they don't quite look like they've just fought another Yonko. They look clean and ready to start a war themselves. It doesn't seem that Kaido and Shanks clashed much, which would mean that Shanks somehow convinced him with words. Plus, every time Shanks meets a big figure in the world, he doesn't go to war with them. He's known for being more civil than most pirates, so I don't see why anything would change with Kaido. Yet again, it seems that Shanks is another character that thought Ace was Joy Boy until seeing it with his own eyes. He believed Luffy was so special that he even tells everyone that he meets about him. I do believe Rayleigh and Roger also thought it'd be
Shanks e Malvagio e fatto morire Ace, probabile.
Ace, since Roger himself said that it'd be his own son to be the next Pirate King. Rayleigh may have realized that it wasn't Ace after meeting him and seeing that he wasn't the funny goofy boy that he read about at Laughtail. On the other hand, the second he met Luffy,
Laughtail al computer portatile, laptop è diventato.
he instantly sensed something different about him. He saw the legend with his own two eyes and realized that he even wanted to continue living to see what Luffy would end up doing. Just like the others, Rayleigh saw something different in Luffy and knew that he was the one that Roger was waiting for. So now this all brings us back to Kaido. Just like the rest of them, Kaido may have believed Ace was Joy Boy or had a chance to be Joy Boy, but once he saw Luffy, his mind and perspective was changed. I was also
Ma che cazzo sta dicendo? Ma
thinking, do you think there's a chance that Kaido overheard Zunisha say that Luffy is Joy Boy? I mean, we don't know if he has the voice of all things or not, but he's the type of guy that would. Even if he didn't hear it straight from Zunisha, there's still
no, non è il secondo canale di Oara, questo è uno degli amici di Oara perché lui già l'aveva citato, il suo amico Marshall di Preach, massimo esperto.
a chance he could have heard it from Momo and Yamato. I think it'd be interesting if he somehow overheard their conversation. Either way, he still believes that Luffy is Joy Boy now, since he was the one that defeated him. Now all these men believed in Zunisha, there's still a chance he could have heard it from Momo and Yamato. I think it'd be interesting if he somehow was Joy Boy or had a chance to be Joy Boy, but once he saw Luffy, his mind and perspective was changed. I was also thinking, do you think there's a chance that Kaido overheard Zunisha say that Luffy is
Perché? Perché? C'è la possibilità che Kaido abbia sentito Zunisha dire che Rufy
Joy Boy?
è Joy
I
Boy.
mean, we don't know
Voglio dire, non
if he has the
sappiamo
voice of all
se ha la voce di
things or
tutte le
not, but he's
cose
the
o no,
type of
ma
guy
il
that
tipo di
would,
ragazzo
even
che
if
lo
he
farebbe.
didn't hear it straight from
Anche se lo
Zunisha,
sentisse
there's still a chance
c'è ancora
he could have heard it
una
from
possibilità che Kaido potrebbe aver sentito
Momo and
da
Yamato.
Momo
I think it'd
e
be
Yamato il fatto che Rufy sia Joy Boy.
interesting if he somehow overheard their
Penso che sarebbe interessante se in qualche modo Avesse ascoltato, attenzione.
conversation. Either
Allora,
way,
come
he
tiene?
still believes that Luffy is
No, pensavo che parlasse di Re del Mare. No, mi sono fatto ingannare dalle immagini. Maledizione. Ho capito che Kaido aveva sentito le voci dei Re del Mare. Scusate, questo è
Joy Boy now, since he was the one that defeated him. Now all these men believed in Ace for very good reasons. I mean, let's just be honest, if Ace didn't die and was still alive, he'd probably be a Yonko right now. Whitebeard still
Questo è... Siamo onesti. Siamo onesti. Se Ace non fosse morto,
alive, he'd
fosse ancora
probably
vivo, probabilmente
be a Yonko
sarebbe
right
un imperatore. Su che base? Che Ace era uno stronzo, che non sapeva fare niente. Era veramente il peggior pirata visto in tutto il manga. Quindi Marco no, Marco lasciamolo stare che ha più anzianità e chiaramente il braccio destro di Newgate. No, facciamo imperatore questo stronzo che a testa calla, che appena Kaino gli fa un pizzichino, questo gli va addosso e muore. Gran bell'imperatore. Bello, pensaci.
now. Whitebeard still would have most likely died at the war, so that would leave either Ace or Marco in complete command of the Whitebeard pirates. Marco may have taken it over at first, but I definitely think Ace would have eventually taken the title of a Yonko.
I pirati di Marco l'avrebbero preso inizialmente sotto la loro ala, poi lui no, lui avrebbe preso il titolo di Yonko.
In the post-time skip, if he
salto
did
di
survive.
principe.
Let's be real
Perfetto.
here, he was
Ma perché sta cazzo di schifezza con le paroline che vengono...
in the post-time skip, if he
guarda,
did survive.
guarda
Let's
che-
be
let's be
real here, he was definitely stronger than Law, Kid, and Luffy in the pre-time skip. Already having conquerors haki and a lot of skill with his fruit, he could have legitimately become one of the strongest men in the world post-time skip. I feel like Oda killing off Ace was good for development and plot for Luffy. But I also think he did it because if Ace never died, then Luffy may have never surpassed him. They may have been at the same level or strength, but it's kind of hard to pass someone who's about to enter the prime of their life. And when they have the genes of Goldie Roger, just like how Luffy continuously gets stronger, the same thing would have most likely happened to Ace. The only thing separating the two would be that Luffy's fruit seems to be a lot better, but the recent confirmation of Roger not having a fruit makes it seem that hockey is more important. I don't see a single way that Ace doesn't develop into getting some of the strongest hockey feats in the series.
Ma io non posso credere che ci sia gente che si guarda davvero sta roba e se la beve. A parte che è scritto malissimo, perché salta di palo in frasca in continuazione, non ha capo né coda, continua a fare supposizioni di cose che non esistono. Adesso voglio un attimo vedere i commenti. Se dicono che sei un genio, vediamo se dicono che sei... Grande video. Non ho nessun problema a pensare che qualcuno credeva che Joy Boy, cioè, che Ace fosse davvero Joy Boy. I really like the cioè, io ti adoro la tua teoria. Ma per me è gente che non ascolta. Come puoi dire che ti piace questa teoria? Cioè... Boh.
Since he's a conqueror just like Luffy and also has the motivation
Perché
to
non è
take
una
down the
teoria, è
biggest
terribile.
names in
Cioè, era buona come incipit, no? Potevi costruirci qualcosa di interessante, ma...
the world. It truly is sad that Ace had to die the way he did because he would have been a big help for Luffy and the whole world in general. I definitely see how characters could have believed in Ace so much, but the reality is that he's just not that guy. Even Ace himself knows that Luffy is different, as he always brings him up, always tells people how he's gonna be a legendary man, and even believes that Luffy will accomplish his dream. Luffy is the real Joy Boy that everyone has been waiting for. With everything I've now explained, this pretty much wraps up why I believe Kaido went to Marineford and how many thought that Ace was Joy Boy. What do you guys think? Do you think he went there to fight Whitebeard like how the Marines said, or do you actually think he was trying to fight with Whitebeard to save Ace? Feel free to comment whatever you think and whatever you feel. If you've liked anything out of this video, then please remember to like it.
Sì, no, non lo so, sono particolarmente scosso da questa cosa. Sono particolarmente scosso. Cioè, di una rumenta incredibile. Una rumenta incredibile. Va bene, va bene. D'accordo, perfetto.
Nuovo croma.
Croma un cacchio. Allora andiamo a vedere invece l'altro video, quello di Oara. Qua probabilmente vediamo se c'è qualcosa di divertente. Sono letteralmente allibito da questa cosa. Guardate che bella la copertina. Un demone e un dio. La copertina mi piace un sacco, è molto bella, molto bella. A parte la resina qua che non ha senso, però... Vabbè. Allora. Va bene. Cominciamo. Andiamo a vedere.
This ancient religion tells us the truth about both Zorro and...
Aspetta, devo mettere anche qua italiano. Che qua almeno il maestro li scrive, quindi potrebbero essere anche un pochino più corretti. Allora, ricominciamo. Vi giuro, a me fa spaccare sta roba. Che devono mettere this ancient religion
tells us the truth about both Zorro and the sun gods Nika. It's really no secret that One Piece is largely inspired by mythologies from all around the world. From Sengoku's Golden Buddha mythical zone to the Nordic roots of Elbaf giants, Oda has clearly studied his myths and legends extensively. However, One Piece also shares a lot of its mythology with an ancient religion that you might not be as familiar with, Zoroastrianism. The connection between these two runs so deep that Oda might have taken in
Sarebbe divertente se l'unica connessione che lui trova è il nome. Stiamo attenti.
Inspiration from this religion for at least two of his major characters. And so today I want to take a closer look at the Zoroastrian roots of the sun god Nika and even ask, could Roronoa Zoro be short for...
Ma mi spiegate qual è l'utilità di far comparire il nome del personaggio con effetto macchina da scrivere qua sul lato? Cioè, qual è l'utilità di questo?
Even ask, could Roronoa Zoro be short?
Per dire, ragazzi, questo personaggio è Zoro. Per voi che non lo sapete, perché magari non leggete il manga, questo si chiama Zoro. No? Non vedo altre alternative.
For Roronoa Zoroaster? Well, before I tell you why the answer is probably yes, make sure you subscribe for more content like this every single week. As we wait for Eiichiro Oda to reveal the secrets of the Sun God Nika and Joy Boy, now is the perfect time to theory craft and see what we can uncover from the rich secrets that make up the fabric of the One Piece world. While pulling from so many mythologies from all around the world, Oda still manages to weave a cohesive narrative, which is a really impressive feat, being able to pull together so many different parts into a solid whole. But perhaps, as the user JammyPans915 on my subreddit has found out, there's something about all these mythologies that helps him along the way. So Oda is bringing in elements from Abrahamic religions like Christianity and Islam, Kuma carries a Bible, and the Quran features a story of the Zakum, a tree in hell that grows actual devil fruits. That might be new to you, right? And he also incorporates Eastern religions, of course, like Hinduism.
Qui chiedo l'assoluto aiuto anche del maestro Dario, che è qua in chat, prima meno, non so se è ancora in chat. Lui che è veramente massimo esperto, ti chiedo poi conferma o smentita di quello che lui dice.
And Buddhism. Again, we have Sengoku's Daibutsu fruit and of course Zoro taking the form of Ashura. Oda even borrows from beliefs in Norse or ancient Egyptian mythology as well. We're all looking forward to meeting Prince Loki.
Io questo lascio un attimo il frame. Chiedo al moderatore lento di guardare con attenzione. Non dico altro. Andiamo avanti.
of Elbaf, there is Shanks, and we remember Pel and Chaka's fruit, which allowed them to take the shape of animals that resemble the gods of the Egyptian pantheon. The Jackal fruit essentially turned Chaka into Anubis, while the Falcon fruit gave Pel the traits of the Egyptian god Horus. The jury is still out though on whether Horus could also survive massive explosions of a giant bomb. But anyways, what if these separate influences play together so nicely because there are common threads that run through all of them? Well, it turns out that almost all of these religions all over the world were influenced or inspired by Zoroastrianism. In case you're wondering what the heck that is, let me give you
Zoroastrismo praticamente è la religione delle religioni. Perfetto.
a quick rundown of it before we get into why it's connected to One Piece. Zoroastrianism is the world's oldest known monotheistic religion, or the first major religion to teach that there is only one supreme god. It originates from Persia, located in what is now modern-day Iran. This faith is based on the teachings of a super ancient prophet called Zoroaster, or as you might have heard, someone called Zarathustra. And so some of the defining features of its belief system center around the duality between good and evil and the eternal battle between the two. And these tenets of Zoroastrianism have become so widespread around the globe that they've
Morgan Freeman. Vero Dio, vero Dio.
influenced many other faiths throughout the world, including Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, and many, many more. Zoroastrianism might also well be the world's oldest continuously practiced religions, with many people in the world still adhering to the Zoroastrian faith to this day. One famous practitioner that you might be surprised at was none other than Queen singer Freddie Mercury, for instance. Well, clearly now that we know that, the Galila Company's Peoply Lulu's resemblance to Freddie Mercury was no mere coincidence, and One Piece is
Certo, perché chiaramente Pipli Luru era uno zoroastrista. È proprio incredibile. Incredibile. Io voglio vedere i commenti un attimino. Ha dovuto farla chiara. Vediamo cosa dice il maestro. Vediamo cosa dice il maestro. Allora, alcuni chiarimenti dice: ho semplificato le cose per il video e so che la religione può essere un argomento delicato. Quindi ecco un po' di chiarimenti per quanto ne so. Lo zoroastrismo è la più antica religione monoteista, che crede in un dio unico. Non è più antica dell'induismo stesso, che probabilmente risale a prima dell'era glaciale, dice. Il legame dell'induismo moderno con lo zoroastrismo passa attraverso i Veda, va bene, ok, bla bla bla. E beh, lo avranno imbruttito, sicuro, perché stava dicendo un mare di cazzate. Infatti ha dovuto fare il disclaimer, perché lo stavano imbruttendo.
This connection to Zoroastrianism has been hinted at way back, all along. Okay, maybe the Freddie Mercury one is a bit of a stretch, but now that we've covered the basics of Zoroastrianism, it's time to really dig into how it inspired One Piece so much, including Sun God Nika and Zoro. Zoroastrian teachings say that the world was once pure and good, but was slowly corrupted by evil forces. However, to defeat this evil and return the world to its ideal state, every 1,000 years, a hero is reincarnated or reborn until finally, with the last cycle, the hero finally vanquishes these forces of evil. Now, this is a very stark simplification of
Che sacco di merda.
Now, these forces of evil. Now, forces of evil. Now, this is
Andare avanti per ore.
Evil. Now, this is a very stark simplification of some very complex theology. Of course, you can learn more about it if you get...
Certo, Luca, prima dell'era glaciale, perché chiaramente nell'universo di Ohara il mondo è diverso. Quando c'era l'era glaciale, ovviamente, c'era già gli induisti.
hands on a copy of the Avesta, the sacred text of Zoroastrianism, but even that bit of information should scream One Piece to you, like everywhere. One Piece is all about inherited will. Almost all of the Straw Hats and many other characters have inherited the will of someone close to them. And Luffy himself seems to share so many parallels with the former king of the pirates, Goldie Roger. Roger himself was too early in arriving to Laughtail. It seems that there is a cosmic calendar counting down the time towards some cataclysmic destiny, and Luffy is the fated hero to take part in a great battle that determines the future of the world. But most recently, we're seeing that Luffy appears to be a reincarnation of sorts for Joy Boy. We know very little about Joy Boy so far, but we do know that
Perché cioè, adesso lui continua a negarsi, ti dice cose. Hai detto l'altra volta che Joy Boy è Rufy stesso, devi mantenere la linea, caro maestro, non puoi andare di qua, di là, come cazzo ti pare a te.
he played a significant role in the Void Century, which happened nearly 1,000 years ago, somewhat in line with Zoroastrianism's cycle of the reborn hero. Another important connection to Zoroastrianism comes from Zoro himself. I mean, Zoroastrianism, huh? It's possible that Oda got Zoro's name from this religion, because most Western viewers, of course, when thinking of the name Zoro, think of the swashbuckling pulp hero Zoro with 2 R's, but despite Antonio Banderas' impressive sword-wielding skills, the rest of the comparison really falls apart quite quickly. In fact, we do know that Zoro wasn't actually named after this other hero, and thanks to the similar name, we now have Zoro with 2 R's to thank for every English reader having to suffer through the official translation calling our favorite swordsman Zolo. Thanks for that, I guess. Quick bonus fact here, if you're wondering where the Roronoa part comes from, well, that's derived from the real-life pirate Francis Lolona. Lolona, I guess. I mean, you get it. Roronoa is the Japanese rendering of that. Anyways, back to Zoroastrianism. One of the most important connections to Zoro is his Ashura technique. Today, Ashuras are known as divine beings within Hinduism and Buddhism, but their lineage can actually be tracked all the way back to Zoroastrianism. In fact, the supreme god of Zoroastrianism is known as Ahura Mazda. The Ahura pronunciation and spelling shifting to Ashura as it moved across different places, times, and languages. Another connection between Zoro and Zoroastrianism comes through his many brushes with death. Now, it's
Zoro il suicida. Zoro il suicida.
Now, it's said that in climatic battle, the great hero of Zoroastrian myth will cause the dead to be reborn and for the souls lost in the underworld to be purified and brought back to the light. And so I really couldn't help but notice that Zoro has been having a really recent encounter with the Grim Reaper himself, but until we find out more about what that situation was all about, it's really hard to speculate.
Ma non avevi detto che era il Clawbatterman di Pluton? Brutto stronzo.
If there is a connection here. Another connection.
Adesso è collegato allo zoroastrismo. Domani invece è collegato alla zia Maria di qualcuno di voi, pensateci.
Between Zoroastrianism and One Piece has to do with fire and light. Luffy has been shown to have unexplained powers to conjure fire. He's the foretold hero that will bring the dawn of the world, the one who will shine light again on the world that has been shrouded in darkness. And it just so happens that fire and light are crucial symbols in Zoroastrianism. In this religion, there is a practice to light an eternal flame within a place of worship called a fire temple. That sounds really cool.
Mamma mia. Ne spara talmente tante, tutte insieme. Cioè, avesse fatto un collegamento uno che dici ok, ha senso, ok, potrebbe avere effettivamente ragione, potrebbe essere qualcosa di interessante. No e no.
And so when the ideas and values from Zoroastrianism are passed from one person down to the next, it is symbolized by a new flame being lit from the existing one. Thus, an eternal...
Cioè, è inutile fare poi gli effettini e la super pulizia dell'immagine, la fotografia molto figa.
Flame, one that endures the flow of time, represents an inherited will, not too dissimilar from the concept of inherited will within One Piece. Speaking of inherited will, in addition to being a new Joy Boy, it would seem that Luffy is also related to a figure called the sun god Nika. In Zoroastrianism, fire is used to represent the god Ashura Mazda. And in addition to this, there is also a Zoroastrian moral code that follows three main principles: good thoughts, or pendarnik, good words, or goftarnik, and good actions, or kerdanik. The word nik, which can be translated as good, true, or chosen, just so happens to be where the Persian
Meraviglioso. 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 Abbiamo rivelato l'origine del nome Nika.
name Nika originates. The name of the sun god Nika literally comes from Zoroastrianism. So if you weren't convinced by any other pieces of evidence,
se non ti ha convinto nessun altro, sono sicuro che questo ti farà pensare due volte. E che cosa abbiamo visto all'inizio di questa live? Il video di Richard che diceva che non bisogna pensare due volte. E quindi è una cazzata.
so far, I'm sure this one will make you think twice. And while we focused on the Zoroastrianism side of argument, Oda-sensei also dives deep into Norse mythology as well. It's of course the inspiration for both the Giants of Elbaf and our red-haired legend Shanks. Now, Shanks and Luffy are bound to meet very soon. And if you want to know why this will most likely take place on Elbaf and why Luffy must fight his mentor at some point, you really can't miss out on this video right here.
Che scammone. Non ho detto, cioè, è un video di 10 minuti dove non ha detto letteralmente nulla. Nulla di nulla. Cioè, alla fine, il vero collegamento tra Zoro e lo zoroastrismo è lo Zoro nel nome. Basta. Questa è. Questo è, come avevamo già detto all'inizio. Che merdaviglia. Che merdaviglia. Che merdaviglia davvero. Incredibile. Veniamo all'ultimo video. Veniamo all'ultima perla di quest'oggi. Questo video, eccolo qua. Questo video pazzesco che si intitola
For more than 25 years.
Che cazzo, perché parti? Ti ho detto di non partire. Sempre queste scritte merdose che compaiono a UFO. Allora, adesso si deve muovere, bene, siamo tutti qua apposta. Dai, grande l'ostia. Niente, non ce la fa. Allora, sottotitoli. E qua purtroppo c'è la roba brutta. Pazienza, pazienziamo. Traduzione automatica. Italiano. Questo video si intitola Penso di aver risolto One Piece. E Oda è un pazzo. Siete pronti? Se siete pronti possiamo cominciare la trasmissione. Sempre che io riesca a muovere il cursore. Olè, ce l'ho fatta. Chi è questo creator? Questo creator si chiama Dek Sake. Ha solo 2340 iscritti, quindi io vi consiglio di abbonarvi. Ma la cosa più bella è il commento del maestro Ara qua. This is brilliant. Quindi 7 ore fa, E quindi il maestro ha già sicuramente rubato. Scommettiamo che nelle prossime settimane uscirà questo video sul sito di Ohara. Vediamo, scopriamolo, vediamo. Intanto vediamolo noi. Pronti? Via. Preparatevi.
For more than 25 years and counting, fans have been wondering, what is the One Piece? Or maybe, where is the One Piece? And an equally important question might just be, why is the One Piece? What treasure could possibly make the Pirate King himself laugh to the point of tears? But also be one that could potentially bring the entire world government to its knees. Is it a weapon or just some type of long-running joke? Well, what if I told you that the One Piece is the physical key that allows Luffy to make the world into what it should be? A symbol of the world after the dawn, you could say. And what if I said that our very own singing skeleton may just tell us everything that we need to know about Joy Boy's history? Well, please join me as I walk you through what, where, and why is the One Piece. But first, please help.
Non ditemi che è un video sul sake di Binks. No, forse no. Forse no. Vabbè, meno male. Mi ero già spaventato. Sempre scritte, sempre. Sempre scritte. Perché il Trenitalia, chiamiamolo così, il Trenitalia, deve essere imboccato. L'alfabetismo funzionale ormai funziona così, devi imboccare le cose. Se voi vedeste lo stato in cui le persone si sono ridotte su TikTok, io penso che vi viene la depressione. Cioè, io veramente ho visto i medici a fare i ballettini con le ditine, a fare cose così per spiegare ai mentecatti le cose più banali. Questo è il mondo di adesso, a disposizione del mentecatto con le scrittine e i balletti.
Your boy out and drop a like on the video. This is definitely the biggest project that I've ever done, and I know you're going to at least walk away knowing something new. So if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe because I got a lot more coming. On to the mega theory.
Gotcha.
Of all the mysteries in the world of One Piece, the ones that have intrigued me the most since my very first episode are that of the pirates. How has only one pirate successfully conquered the seas and found that final treasure in 800 years? What could Roger possibly find and leave behind at that place that made him want to begin the great pirate era after his execution? We learned from Inuyasha that Laughtail can only be found by reading all 4 lode poneglyphs, and he made it seem
E 4 i pornoglifi. Rivelata la vera verità dietro i poneglyph. Sono dei pornoglyph.
as if these 4 poneglyphs will act as coordinates to a certain point on the map. But how could a stationary island possibly remain hidden for this long? Does it move periodically or potentially just reside under the sea? Well, I think I've actually managed to find the answers to all of those questions thanks to a number of people that chipped in that I'll try to mention during the video, as well as taking my time researching all of Oda's smallest hints to Joy Boy, because we all know how Oda loves to twist past moments in the story, no matter how small, to amplify the current events that we're reading. Sometimes he does this with entire arcs, like Saba Odi, where we returned after 2 years and essentially had the same exact setup, but the outcome was inverted to show our crew's strength over those last 2 years. But Oda also does this with smaller singular moments as well, such as Sun God Nika. The first image we saw of Nika connects to this image of Luffy and Skypiea, which is a cool panel in its own right, and despite being one of Oda's favorite panels that he's ever drawn, nobody could have predicted all of its ties to Gear 5th and Nika himself at the time that it was printed. However, once that connection was made in chapter 1017 and 1044, it recontextualized a lot of what we saw in Skypiea and has given rise to all sorts of new theories and parallels. This is an example of how
questo è l'esempio più banale di come perdere il tempo, raccontando cose inutili giusto per aumentare il tempo del video. Cioè siamo a 2 minuti e 50 e non ho ancora detto assolutamente
how
niente.
something seemingly insignificant in the past can become significant thanks to future events. So I wanted to use that logic and go back through the story with a fine-tooth comb and find more hidden connections to Joy Boy, Nika, and Luffy that have yet to be discovered. I mean, we've already had one slip under our nose with Luffy's pose in Skypiea, so where else can Oda be hiding hints for the greatest secrets of the One Piece world? And wouldn't you know it, we actually missed another example of that same exact Nika pose, except this time it was by Brook. This was back in chapter 635, and you can even see one of the fishmen smile at his performance, and we now know that making others smile is something that Nika did in the past. This is an extremely important panel, and I promise I'm going to circle back to it later, but I think it would instead be best to begin our discussion with the most important common denominator between Joy Boy, Nika, and Luffy, which is the Gomu Gomu no Mi. And yes,
Gamo no mi. Oh my god. Oh my god.
I'll be calling it by that name throughout the video because A, it's easier, and B, it actually is just the Gomu Gomu no Mi. And you can check out these two videos in the description to learn why. But obviously, Luffy, Joy Boy, and Nika all use the powers of this fruit. And thanks to the context of what Roger said at Laughtail, Joy Boy is tied to Laughtail directly and is probably even the one who left the One Piece behind. So I figured that anything dealing with this fruit has to be put under a magnifying glass. So from here on out, I want to look at every potential tie to the Gomu Gomu no Mi in the story that I could find, and then kind of consider it in light of the new powers that we now know that it has. And what I found will surprise you. And at the bare minimum, you will not be able to look at another Laughtail theory the same after today. I think we can all...
Siamo a 5 minuti. Siamo a 5 minuti. Quello che ha detto di importante, cioè nulla, cioè però ha detto che la chiave di tutto è il frutto Gom Gom. 5 minuti.
all agree that Laughtail and the Imperative Final War will be some of the most significant moments in the entire story of One Piece. I mean, that's what we've been building up for over 25 years now. So let me throw this idea at you. What if Oda hid all of his hints for the most significant arc inside the most insignificant one? At least in many people's eyes, which is Long Ring Longland.
The answer
Già questo mi fa innervosire. Come puoi dire che Long Ring Longland è insignificante? Cioè devi essere un mentecatto.
is hell no.
Now, before you question everything and leave the video, let me show you one unquestionably convincing piece of evidence, just so you know I'm not full of shit. And that would be this panel. The old man, named Tanjit, explains that the reason everything is stretched out is because they feel free. So they can stretch longer and taller than normal. Doesn't that sound familiar to you? Even if this is the first time you've been acquainted with this panel, you could probably see how important that line is right away. Because being free is exactly how Luffy's powers work. Once he awakens, he even becomes freer than normal and is only limited by imagination. And we even had a reminder about this freedom in chapter 1061, where Luffy says that Gear 5th is when he's truly free. So how in the
La metto uno per? Va bene. La metto un pochino più veloce.
world can everyone and everything on Long Ring Longland become stretched out for a similar reason to Luffy? Well, that question is what led me to find all the answers that I'm sharing with you today. So now that you know I might actually be onto something, let me go ahead and start back from the top. Long Ring Longland is viewed as almost a throwaway arc by many, partially due to it being stuck between the highs of Skypiea and Water 7, but also partially due to our Davey backfight against the very lame Foxy Pirates. The only real plot progression occurred at the end when we met Aokiji. It's almost like Oda was just having fun, and that leads many people to disregard this arc or simply skip over it in terms of the overarching story. You could almost say that it has been hidden from us in a sense, which is doubly interesting when you consider that the island itself is almost completely hidden away from the world. The first reason is simply its structure. It's made of about 10 points around a circle that are all connected under the water, which right away hides about 95% of it. And
il doc sono anni che dice che per lui Laughtail potrebbe effettivamente essere Long Ring Longland. Quindi sarebbe la coronazione di una sua grande teoria. Sarebbe incredibile.
And each of those points is a boring, empty plain. When the Straw Hats first arrived, only Luffy was interested in even exploring it, and I'll definitely discuss that point more later on. But this is yet another reason why it's kind of hidden. I mean, why would anyone bother exploring it at all if there's just nothing to do or nothing to steal? And on top of that, a log pose will only point you to one of the 10 points before directing you away to somewhere else completely, because it's actually all just one big island hidden mostly under the sea. Again, another way in which this island stays hidden from the world. And as many of us remember, once a year during Agua Laguna, the island becomes a full crown shape again, which allows the villagers to travel to another point on foot. So overall, this basically just means that if you did find this island, all you'd see is a boring empty plain and then get directed away from it. And the only time that someone could see the rest of the island under the sea is during Agua Laguna. And we were basically told that no ship could possibly sail during it, only the sea train. And isn't it kind of weird how perfectly crown shaped it is? And I'll get back to this later, because once the crew walks around and sees that everything in
Perfetto. Questo è già confermato. Cioè loro sono già stati a Laughtail. Pensateci.
everyone is stretched out, we even see Chopper and Usopp begin to stretch out too. And they even ask, what kind of island is this? Since people seem to be affected by the freedom of this island even right after they arrive there, maybe there's something going on with the environment itself that causes this phenomenon. I mean, we've seen Logia awakenings affect environments permanently, and sure, the Gomu Gomu isn't a Logia, but it already has properties of both paramecias and zones, and it can at least affect environments temporarily. So I feel like I'd just be a fool to rule out the chance that the fruit can affect environments on a permanent basis as well. I mean,
Cioè, praticamente il Joy Boy un tempo riuscì talmente tanto a influenzare Long Ring, Long Land, da far sì che la gente lì sopra avesse questo permanente mood di libertà, tanto da allungarsi.
one look at Zunisha's legs also begs into question if those were stretched out also, but we'll definitely talk about that more later too. And since the last user of the Gomu Gomu seemed to be Joy Boy, it would all probably have to be Joy Boy that did this if this was the case. And that idea gets even more mind-blowing when you see this comment from Tanji. As soon as Luffy knocks him down from the stilts, he looks directly at Luffy and without hesitation he says, "Long time no see." And after a reminder from Usopp, he says, "Oh yeah, I haven't seen your face." Maybe I'm reaching way too deep here, but could he possibly just be mistaking Luffy for Joy Boy? As if he could tell.
Che cazzo sta dicendo?
He had some will of Joy Boy, or at least he was free just like him, which led to him getting confused. If that seems like a stretch, keep in mind that Oda's depiction of Davy Jones looks exactly like this old man Tanji. Davy was an infamous pirate from ancient times that was involved with the first Davy backfight on Hachinosu Island, so I don't think that we can rule out anything that this old man is talking about. We will discuss this in greater detail later in the video, but I just want to keep hammering home all these odd connections that point us right back to Long Ring Longland. And one connection that connects this island to Laughtail directly happens during chapter 304, when we first arrive to Long Ring Longland. Usopp famously gets, "I'll die if I go to that island" disease. And the only other person that's gotten this disease in the story was Buggy right before.
Oddio! Oddio! Ha fatto la teoria su una cosa sbagliata. Mamma mia, che danno enorme che fanno le traduzioni sbagliate. Che danno enorme che fanno le traduzioni sbagliate. Mamma mia. Mamma mia, ragazzi, questa è veramente da putrefazione. Questa è da putrefazione. Porca puttana. Cioè, gira ancora sta roba. Queste erano le traduzioni fatte dal coreano durante i primi giorni in cui doveva uscire questo capitolo, perché è uscito chiaramente in anticipo, perché lo spoilerarono tipo mesi prima rispetto a quando doveva uscire. E c'erano traduzioni che erano veramente fuori di testa.
He got to Laughtail. Could this possibly mean that they were near the same place when they got this disease? It could be that some people just get sick when near a certain area, or near a certain something. And something that I haven't seen a lot of people bring up is that we've seen something similar to this with Roger and...
Ti basta prendere banalmente Manga Plus e leggerlo, o comprarti il volume originale, legge. Questa è gente che non legge neanche il volumetto originale, che non si compra il manga, e fa teorie sulla merda che trova in giro. La follia. Quindi sì, e Tonji ha 900 anni, chiaramente.
Odin, as well as Luffy and Momo, when all of these people went to Zo. All four of them felt a little queasy when near the island, and they were the only ones from their respective crews to feel that way. Kind of like how Usopp and Buggy were the only ones to feel that way near their respective islands. And if you think about it, Usopp and Buggy are kind of similar in a lot of ways. They're cowards, but are also captains, right? So am I then proposing that Laughtail is at or near Long Ring Longland? Well, that's honestly a strong possibility. But what I can say for sure is that there has to be some type of connection between the two, or at least Long Ring Longland and Joy Boy. And remember what I said earlier about Long Ring Longland being crown-shaped one day out of the year? Well, who else wears...
Tu pensa che stronzo Roger, che è arrivato all'Odd Star, arriva lì e vede che il log pose impazzisce, perché non riesce a catturare il magnetismo dell'ultima isola vera, che è dopo, dovrebbe essere dopo l'Odd Star, no? Altrimenti che cazzo c'ha da girare il magnetismo dell'Odd Pose? E invece no! deve fare di nuovo il giro del mondo, tornare indietro e a metà strada tra Water 7 e Jaya c'è Long Ring Long Land. Pensa che stronzo.
Crowns, kings, like the Pirate King. Maybe that's a sign that Agua Laguna is the one day a year that the Pirate King can be crowned. There was even an anime-only episode that told us that the water from Agua Laguna has salt from the All Blue, and that water is from Long Ring Longland. I mean, I know it's technically not canon, but like, why are they so specific? There is another idea that I like that even goes a step further that I'll go ahead and share later on in the video, but there is honestly a very strong case to be made that Laughtail is right here at the center of all 10 points of Long Ring Longland. And it's an especially strong candidate if you assume that Laughtail is stationary and is actually found at 4 intersecting points, just like Inuyarashi mentioned. So for those reasons, let me go ahead and briefly paint you a picture of what Laughtail being at Long Ring Longland could look like. So for argument's sake, let's just say that the entrance to Laughtail is inside the crown and is only accessible during low tide, aka Agua Laguna. So right off the bat, you'd need to go there on one specific day out of the year. And since log poses don't work there, you'd have to have a map with directions. You'd also have to kind of be there ahead of time because once the tide's lower, you wouldn't even be able to
Cioè, sì, è chiaro, io impazzirei se fosse lì in mezzo davvero, Però ci sono dei però grossi come una casa.
enter into inside the crown because there will be walls there at that point. You could almost say that those walls are acting as a border, not unlike the borders of Wano. And wait, didn't Wano have something underneath it too? An ancient city with poneglyphs and even an ancient weapon? I mean, Long Ring Longland is basically the same thing except under the water and crown shape. I mean, it would be a perfect place to hide treasure though, because who would ever bother to stay in the center of this boring ring of islands during the craziest storm of the year?
Tonjit potrebbe essere Joy Boy a questo punto, che è rimasto là sopra sui trampoli quando Roger ha scoperto la storia di Joy Boy, si è messo a ridere. E se ci pensate, nel capitolo 0 vediamo appunto proprio Tonjit dopo la morte di Roger, che dice che vorrebbe costruire i trampoli più alti del mondo.
Year and try to navigate without log poses helping you. It's almost like you just have to know specifically when and where to be to ever have a chance of finding it. And if you think Laughtail being hidden under an island isn't a good enough hiding spot, where has Pluton been this whole time? I mean, we didn't have specifics about Kaido's plans really, but he was there for 20 years and still didn't find Pluton. I mean, maybe he knew it was there, but he didn't actually get it, right? And it stayed hidden from everyone else for 800 years. So what's stopping Laughtail from just being under a boring island that nobody cares about? And given Long Ring Longland's peculiar shape and the freedom that they all feel, wouldn't it make sense that Joy Boy stretched this island out using his awakening? Maybe he set all of this up.
Si è messo a allungare l'isola. Così, la allunghiamo. Ah, ora tutta bella lunga. Perfetto. Pensaci. Che meraviglia.
Himself because he was already familiar with Agua Laguna's tides, and he probably just figured that this would be a perfect place to hide the treasure until
per rompere le balle a quelli che vivono lì, no? Perché poi loro tutte le volte devono emigrare di isoletta in isoletta ogni anno, ogni 3 o 4 anni, se non mi ricordo ogni quanti anni sbuca l'isola. Che meraviglia. No, una volta all'anno e fanno il pit stop ogni 2 o 3 anni, loro dicevano qualcosa del genere. Cioè,
he returned in the future. And that idea actually gets a lot crazier when you consider the fact that Water 7 is very close by, and it also has an ancient city beneath it that is also underwater, just like Long Ring Longland. And we know that this city, as well as Water 7 itself, has been gradually sinking because of the floods of Agua Laguna. But think about that. Why would an ancient city
Water 7 Regno Antico.
even build themselves somewhere with intense floods in the first place, unless at one point in time there weren't any floods at all? However, if one day that all changed, then it would easily explain how both islands became mostly, or just entirely, submerged over time. And also why Joy Boy may have wanted to stretch out parts of Long Ring Longland so that the people who live there wouldn't drown. But that isn't all, because there's also good reason to believe that this city is the one with the poneglyph that describes Uranus's location. I have so much...
Ovviamente, no? Quando Joy Boy tocca qualcosa, questa rimane per sempre allungata. Abbiamo visto Kaido che è rimasto con un pugno nella testa, oppure è rimasto un lazzo per fare i salti, no? La corda per fare i salti.
more to say about this, but I'm just going to keep it brief for this video. So, during Roger's flashback, Water 7 was the first place that he stopped while searching for that last lode poneglyph, and collecting all of the other poneglyphs as well. But it's the
Che cazzo... Che cosa ha detto?
his location. I have so much more to say about this, but I'm just going to keep it brief for this video. So, during Roger's flashback, Water 7 was the first place that he stopped while searching for that last lode poneglyph. And
Ok. Quindi non importa se semplicemente scendeva da Skypiea. Si è fermato lì perché cercava l'ultimo. Ok.
and collecting all of the other poneglyphs as well. But it's the only place that we didn't see them actually interact with one. And at this point of his journey, Roger was rushing to become Pirate King before his death. So I don't think he was just stopping by just so he could say hi to Tom. Roger probably knew that there was history there and he wanted Odin to read it for him, even if it didn't end up being a lode poneglyph. I mean, they did the same
Si sono fermati a Water 7 perché era consapevole che lì c'era qualcosa e quindi voleva che Odin gli leggesse il poneglyph nascosto a Water 7. Vabbè.
same exact thing in Skypiea too. The only place they went to that we didn't get to see a poneglyph was Water 7. And we already know that the other two ancient weapons locations were revealed by poneglyphs that were found in ancient cities without a lode poneglyph, being Skypiea and Alabasta, which makes Water 7 the perfect location to hold the location of the final ancient weapon, Uranus. Since we know that the final
Perché? Con quale logica? Così. Cioè, siccome ha detto una stava a Skypiea,
being Skypiea and Alabasta, which makes
l'altra stava a Alabasta, no?
Water 7 the perfect location to hold the location of the final ancient weapon,
E quindi Water 7 era il luogo perfetto per contenere la posizione dell'ultima arma antica.
Uranus. Since we
Il tuo ano. Per fare la battuta all'Oara.
know that the final lode poneglyph was found in Fishman Island instead. I mean, we all know that Uranus has close ties to the sky,
Vediamo se fa il pippone su chi era Urano. Cioè.
and many people have theorized that it could have something to do with the tides, just like the moon does. And if this poneglyph is really found in the same place that becomes flooded by Agua Laguna, well, you can probably already see where I'm going with this. What if Long Ring Longland in Water 7 used to avoid the flood
Quindi Robin è una povera cretina che non ha mai potuto leggere il poneglyph di Water 7, pur essendo stata lì con tutta una saga lunghissima e bla bla bla.
in the past, thanks to something managing the tides for them? Just like Poseidon was meant to help the people of Fishman Island, could Uranus have been used to help the people of Water 7? And maybe they were meant to fix the tides for good at some point, but much like Poseidon, Joy Boy was unable to fulfill that promise until 800 years in the future. Once the Void Century happened, Joy Boy may have just known that those annual tides were going to return, so he
Cioè, praticamente a Water 7 hanno costruito Pluton, ma in realtà avevano Uranus, sapevano dove stava Uranus.
used them to his advantage to create the perfect hiding place for his grandest treasure, and the effects still make those inhabitants feel free to this very day. And so while that option is an extremely strong one, I want to pivot to a different
Questi sono gli occhiali di Crocus. No, è brutto.
idea for Laughtail that I like just a little bit more, and that is that Laughtail is located inside of a whale. This idea is not something new, so I'll only cover it briefly. Is an extremely strong one. I want to pivot to a different idea for Laughtail that I like just a little bit more, and that is that
Qui va da tutt'altra parte. Cioè, voglio passare un'altra idea, perché mi piace solo un po' di più.
Laughtail is located
E
inside
c'è quella che Laughtail si
of
trova
a
all'interno
whale.
della
This
balena,
idea is
che era la teoria che aveva rubato il maestro Ara.
not something new, so I'll only cover it briefly, but I do want to say that even if the One Piece is found under Long Ring Longland or elsewhere, there is still likely a very important whale waiting for Joy Boy to return, and that whale's name is Davy Jones. After all the connections between Long Ring Longland, Joy Boy, and
No,
Laughtail,
aspetta, sto impazzendo.
after all the land or elsewhere, there is
balena
still
Davy
likely
Jones.
a very important whale waiting for Joy Boy to return, and that whale's name is Davy Jones.
La balena Davy Jones! La balena Davy Jones! Che cosa... Non lo so, io sono annichilito. Sono annichilito.
After all the connections between Long Ring Longland, Joy Boy, and Laughtail that I've said so far, I hope you can agree that anything that ties to that arc has to be put under a magnifying glass. And since we were introduced to Davey backfights here, which ties directly into Davy Jones, I want to take a deeper dive into this legend as well. And Oda actually discussed Davey in SBS 38, and even drew this picture of him that I mentioned earlier. Doesn't he look identical to Tanjit? We've seen
È uguale. Uguale proprio, stessa persona. Stessi zigomi. Stessa barba. C'è solo il naso a patata.
Oda characterized things before, such as swords, which looked somewhat like their creators. And while I definitely don't think Tanjit himself created Davey or anything, I think it can at least prove that Davey has some kind of tie to Long Ring Longland, which we now know has some very strange ties to Joy Boy and potentially even Laughtail. And so
Cioè, ma che cosa cazzo sta dicendo? Cioè, c'è detto, il manga ci dice che Davy Jones è legato all'isola dei pirati, dove sta Barba Nera adesso. E il fatto che poi sia arrivato Foxy e abbia fatto lì un Davy backfight non c'entra niente con l'isola, poteva beccarli in qualsiasi altro posto.
So I'll get right back to that point in a moment, but first I feel like I need to briefly cover the reasoning why Laughtail could be inside of a whale for all those who might be uninitiated. So first off, a whale would just be the perfect hiding place for an island. It would always be under the sea and moving, so it's basically its own natural defense mechanism. And if the whale is anything like Laboon, it could even fight off people on its own. And speaking of Laboon, he is literally a whale with an island inside, so we know it's possible to do so. And his species is literally known as island whales. Plus, he is a whale that befriended somebody who died, came back to life, and is supposed to come back and meet him. And we now know that Joy Boy died and came back to life in the form of Luffy.
Questo è Zunesha. Dov'è? Aspetta.
And he's the one who modified Laboon in the first place, so maybe that's where he got the idea. And during our time,
Eccolo qua.
somebody who died, came back to life, and is supposed to come back, literally a whale with an island inside, so we know it's possible to do so. And his species is literally known as island whales. Plus, he is a whale that befriended somebody who died, came back to life, and is supposed to come back and meet him. And we now know that
questa immagine è Zunesha Ivan il Terribile. Per chi ha visto Fantozzi, il secondo tragico Fantozzi, quando c'è Ivan che insegue Fantozzi sull'autostrada, c'ha gli occhi così. E questo è Zunesha il Terribile. E questo è il crimine di Zunesha.
that Joy Boy died and came back to life in the form of Luffy. Plus, Crocus has been the Laughtail, and he's the one who modified Laboon in the first place, so maybe that's where he got the idea. And during our time...
Guardate che sistema si è inventato Crocus. Tanto che quel coglione di Vegapunk. Praticamente Laboon è un cyborg. Con le stanze. Guardate lo stomaco di Laboon, è diventato una... Gli ha tolto lo stomaco e gli ha messo una capsula in vetro gigante con le porte, con dentro i succhi gastrici. Cioè, questo è Crocus, ragazzi. Di che cazzo stiamo parlando? Vegapunk 500 anni avanti nel futuro. Judge. Queen. Caesar. Ma di che cosa stiamo parlando? Guardate quest'uomo che cosa ha fatto. Cioè, guardate il tubo che esce da questa capsula, con dentro i succhi gastrici, che finiscono nella testa di Laboon. Non è la bocca è sotto, non è il tubo digerente quello, non è l'esofago. No, è un tubo che gli entra nel cervello per fargli entrare i succhi gastrici nel cervello. Questa è tortura pazzesca. Cioè, di che cosa stiamo parlando? Okay, Joy Boy.
Time under the sea in Fishman Island, we came across other island whales that even had the same scars as Laboon. Brooke actually sang Being Sake to them and they had a pleasant reaction, almost as if they recognized the song. So how could that be? Shanks and Roger also sang that song with their respective crews, so this makes the island whales that much more ominous to me. So those are some of the most prominent reasons that I've seen for why many people believe Laughtail could be inside of a whale, but I think there's a hell of a lot more to it than that. And let's also just consider the fact that, as I was saying earlier, Brooke's story is all about a guy who befriended a whale, died, and came back to life with the goal of meeting his whale friend again and playing that song. So what if Joy Boy is just a grander version of that story? I mean, we've already seen Joy Boy die and then come back in the form of Luffy, and just like how Laboon will only recognize Brooke,
come distruggere il sogno di Brooke dando a Joy Boy lo stesso sogno ma più in grande.
Brooke because of his afro, Zunisha only recognized Joy Boy after Luffy activated Gear 5th. I mean, all we really need is for the poneglyphs to point to another whale at the end of the journey to complete the parallel. And take a look at the freaking panel from Fishman Island that I mentioned before. Brooke is basically in the Nika pose, and we even see him making
Gli indizi. Gli indizi, attenzione. Brooke è in Nika pose.
someone smile, which was even mentioned
Qualcuno invece, vedi, sorride. Pensateci.
by the Gorosei when discussing Nika's power. Am I proposing that Brooke has some deeper connection to Joy Boy? Basically, but I'll touch on that more later. And keep in mind that Luffy has wanted a musician more than any other position since he set out.
Grazie al cazzo. Aveva conosciuto Uta della Shurma di Shanks e gli avevano detto che i pirati cantano. E avendo Uta la musicista nel gruppo, doveva assolutamente averlo anche lui. Questo è il discorso.
Is a pirate. And given Bink Sake's importance to the story, I think this could easily all tie together. I mean, Brooke's laugh is literally in the f***ing song, for crying out loud. And let's not forget to mention that all Laboon, and all the other island whales apparently, wanted to do was destroy the Red Line. But Luffy stopped him until he returned at the end of his journey. And many people have already theorized that destroying the Red Line is the entire point of the One Piece. And that is exactly where Davy Jones himself comes into play. So that means it's time to discuss who exactly Davy the Whale was and how they were connected to Joy Boy. And I believe this whale to be none other than the very same Davy Jones that was involved in the first ever Davy backfight. Robin told us that Davy Jones is a cursed pirate from ancient times who lives under the sea and takes all the ships and treasure that sink to the seafloor. This tells you right away that Davy could very well just be a sea creature since he literally lives on the bottom of the seafloor. And we all should know by now that Oda does nothing but ankle breakers when it comes to pieces of lore like this. I mean, Odin didn't even think Shirahoshi would be a mermaid, and he read the damn poneglyphs. So I think we need to read between the lines a little bit when it comes to stories just like this. Plus, when we were inside of Laboon, we actually saw sunken ships and treasure at the bottom of the ocean that he had inside of him, which may be a hint to what creature Davy might be. And Oda even
Cazzo, queste sono le vittime di Crocus, di cosa stiamo parlando?
talked more about Davy Jones in SBS 38 and added that there was a lying, no good pirate named Davy Jones, a greedy deck chief who was famous for putting all the crew's valuables in his own locker. He was so wicked, even for a pirate, that one day the devil himself cursed Davy to live on the bottom of the sea forever, swabbing the deck of a sunken ship and placing all the sunken treasure into his own locker where it would never be seen again. Between these two explanations, we can see that Davy was indeed from ancient times, but also cursed to do something forever. Does that remind you of anyone? Like maybe Zunisha, who just happens to
Zunisha e Davy Beck e Davy Jones. Zunisha e Davy Jones. Zunisha e Davy Jones. Incredibile.
to be a gargantuan 800-year-old elephant that was also once a companion of Joy Boy. But they were even commanded to wander the seas until Momonosuke came along. And what else
Quindi Zunisha è una balena.
did you say, Oda? Davy was cursed by the devil himself? After seeing Zunisha's situation and all the vilifying of pirates in the One Piece story, I think this devil can be nobody other than Joy Boy himself. And think about what else Oda said. He was famous for putting all the crew's valuables in his own locker. And if our entire conversation is about the One Piece being hidden inside of a whale, perhaps what this really means is that Davy was just the locker where Joy Boy and his crew stored all of their treasure. I mean, that would be a pretty safe place to hide it, right? And maybe Davy Jones was just Joy Boy's entire ship. I mean, what a better way to sail the seas than inside of a whale that protects you. It's like the reverse of the Rumbar pirates, basically. Instead of protecting Laboon, the whale could protect the crew. And I want to go ahead and give a quick shout out to my boy Dyer Regulus. This man had his own Davy Jones theory that gave me all sorts of ideas for this one, so I definitely recommend that you go check him out. And his video gave me the idea that maybe the whale's name is just Davy and Joy Boy's original name is Jones, or
Ah! Il nome della balena è solo Davy. Il nome di Joy Boy è Jones. È il signor Jones, il vicino di casa di zia Janet di Richard Benson. quello che aveva il cane, no? Il coniglio. Mia zia aveva un cane, mia zia Janet, e il suo vicino, il signor Jones, aveva un coniglio. E un giorno il cane si è mangiato il coniglio, no? Porca puttana.
Or Jonah, like in the stories of Jonah and the whale, where he gets eaten and stays there for 3 days and 3 nights. Joy Boy and Jones share the first couple letters, and Luffy
Ah, Dio mio. Pure Joe Squillo allora.
His nicknames are never that far off from his real name, like Luffy, Taro, or Lucy. So I just wanted to go ahead and throw this idea out there because I thought it was interesting. But something important that Oda also mentioned was that Davey was famous, so other people probably knew about the treasure hidden inside. And this could also potentially connect back to the first ever Davey backfight, which we obviously know that Davey was a part of. And then Robin, who seems to know everything important by the way, said that the Davey backfights began on Pirates Paradise Island, which is also known as Hachinosu and was once the home base of Rocks and is now the home base of Blackbeard. This is also interesting given the slight resemblance between
Teach super yeah, che poi Gianni ha paura.
Afro Luffy's chest
Attenzione, il tatuaggio di Luffy è quello di Rox.
tattoo and Rock's pirate symbol. And
Guardate, uguale. Stesso.
from what we've seen so far, the common theme with Hachinosu is that bad pirates stay there. So if the Davey backfight originated on that island, it was likely started by the bad guys who stayed there, as opposed to the good guys, which would be Joy Boy's crew. And if Davey was famous for holding all this treasure inside of him, perhaps the story goes something like this. He was stolen by the strong evil pirates, and then taken back to Hachinosu, and then Joy Boy had to go win him back by playing their probably rigged games. I mean, Davey backfights have always been a game of human resources after all, so pirates could steal other pirate members. And just think about the name of the challenge itself, a Davey back fight. Perhaps it was called this because the first one was a fight to get Davey back.
Combattimento per riavere indietro Davey.
Let me know if you like that idea down in the comments. But of course, Joy Boy probably won this fight fair and square, just like Luffy did. And as much as everyone hates Foxy, I think this gives us a good reason to put his fight with Luffy under the magnifying glass as well. Because I believe there's even a chance that this fight is what gave rise to the Void Century. Emu seems like the type of person to have everything meticulously planned out.
Che cazzo c'entra Ima adesso? Ci siamo passati da Long Ring Long Land. Sarà perché è lunga. Sarà perché è lunga. Poi Water 7, che in realtà è un regno antico dove ci sono i poneglyph. Poi Laughtail, che è nella balena. E la balena, che è Zunesha ed è Davy Jones. E adesso c'è...
Since they've been running the show for 800 years, apparently. So I could easily see them putting together some rigged games like Foxy to try and collect as many strong people to his side as possible so he could take over the world, just like Rocks and Blackbeard have tried to do. But of course, Joy Boy would have won his fight, and Emu just may have gone back on his word, which led to the Void Century in the first place. And whether that part is true or not, the Void Century did eventually happen, and Joy Boy had to leave his treasure somewhere. So where else would he have left it other than his own private treasure chest, inside Davy Jones? Or in other words, he hid the One Piece inside Davy Jones.
Praticamente il povero Davy Jones ha dovuto occultare il tesoro di Joy Boy.
Locker. And if Davy truly was commanded to go scoop up ships and
Che non c'è cosa più sicura del proprio ano, no?
treasure on the seafloor all this time until Joy Boy came back, then the treasure at Laughtail is probably immense at this point, truly worthy of the great pirate era that Roger set forth in the past. And this same Davy Jones would be over 800 years old at this point. And if Zunisha is any comparison, Davy has to be massive. We also can't rule out that Joy Boy stretched either of these two with his awakening, so imagination is truly the limit on their size.
A questo punto anche Zunesha è stato allungato da Joy Boy. Cioè Zunesha era un normalissimo elefante, solo che poi Joy Boy, quando gli ha fatto lo scherzetto, ha fatto il crimine, si è incazzato e gli ha allungato le gambe. Ha detto no, tu adesso tu sei altissimo, non puoi più tornare sulla terraferma e sei costretto a camminare in mare. E torna, torna. E comunque Brooke sulla luna è come Joy Boy, perché ha l'afro.
Awakening, so imagination is truly the limit on their size. And if Joy Boy could command it to collect treasure, maybe he could leave behind other instructions as well, like showing up to a certain place once a year, or maybe only allowing certain people inside who meet certain conditions that they learn from the poneglyphs. Or maybe just like Zunisha, it knows that only a certain someone can command it, and perhaps the One Piece is what's required to do so. But where exactly would this whale be located? Well, how about right under our old friend, Long Ring Longland? And speaking of our friend, it's time to show you what is maybe one of Oda's biggest hints towards Laughtail to date, which is the color page for chapter 471, titled My Friend.
Mancava la copertina, la cazzata della copertina.
Notice how peculiar this scene is. The whole crew is underwater with some various fish swimming around, but at the top is an absolutely massive whale with a crown on its head. I know it's just a color page, but Oda has foreshadowed things from these before, and the title My Friend
come la resina questa. Allungato in 2 sole settimane, esatto. E large your elephant in only 2 weeks.
And surely isn't doing any favors in hiding it. And now that we know an ancient weapon has been under the entire Wano country for 800 years, I just can't rule out the chance that a whale has been waiting for Joy Boy under Long Ring Longland for 800 years either. Imagine if that whale's crown was the size of Long Ring Longland itself. That might even give you an idea of just how big Davy Jones really could be. So
probabilmente Davy Jones è nascosto tra I fanoni. È incastrato tra I fanoni della balena. Eccolo qua, quel puntino qui sotto l'occhio, lo vedete qua? Quello è Davy Jones.
Davy Jones really could be. So maybe during Agua Laguna, you can access the whale via Long Ring Longland and then find Laughtail and thus the One Piece. Another option could just be that the whale could be hiding all year but is summoned to the surface via some certain instructions, probably involving playing Bink Sake. And we actually saw something just like this yet again in chapter 304 when we first got to Long Ring Longland. Oda really packed that chapter tight, I'm telling you. He included a 4-page non-canon story where the crew summons a series of rainbow eels that are all wearing straw hats. Luffy even mentioned trying to summon a whale before these eels surfaced, potentially hinting that the whale can be summoned with the right song as well, and maybe the poneglyphs include these instructions. Both of these are good options, but I'm leaning toward the whale just being right under Long Ring Longland like Pluton is under Wano, and it's just waiting to be moved for its final purpose. Both of these options would be a good way to not only keep Laughtail hidden, but also make sure.
Guardate come sorride malvagia. Ve l'ho messo tutti nel culo, perché io il tesoro ce l'ho nel culo. Ce l'ho io il tesoro, e hanno occultato. E se lo volete dovete entrarmi nel retto. Pensateci.
That a crew who has actually read the poneglyphs would be the only ones to access the final island. And it may also explain why Roger's crew was singing this song on their way to Laughtail in his flashback. Regardless of whether Laughtail is inside a whale or not, we still have to answer one question though. If Roger had all of this proper information and even made it to Laughtail,
e loro ridevano perché il tesoro era nel culo della balena. Cioè ci sta, funziona. Funziona.
Himself, what stopped him from going even?
Da qui il famoso detto in culo alla balena. Cioè, vedi come poi la magia si forma da sola.
Further, why was he too early? And why did Rayleigh say that the Straw Hats may come to a different conclusion than they did? Oda has told us that the One Piece is a physical object, so what could be so funny that the entire crew of the King of the Pirates laughed so hard that they cried? Basically what I'm asking is,
ecco, sti cazzi, il prossimo che deve trovare sto tesoro deve entrare nel culo della balena.
what is the One Piece? Well, I think it's the one piece of something that can make the world one piece again. It's the ultimate treasure of Joy Boy, the sign of strength and friendship that can persevere even after you're nothing but bones. And it's the only sign that lets Davey the whale know that Joy Boy has finally made his way back. I believe that the One Piece is an AFRO.
Che cosa? Il One Piece è un afro. C'è una parrucca. C'è una parrucca. C'è la parrucca. C'è il parruccone. Il parruccone. C'è il parruccone. C'è il parruccone.
But not just any afro, mind you, Joy Boy's afro. It's the sign of
C'è l'afro di Joy Boy. Quindi Roger, quando l'ha visto, cazzo, avrei voluto tanto vivere negli anni 70, quando c'era l'afro e si ballava il funk in discoteca. Fantastico. Fantastico. Fantastico.
strength, the sign of friendship, and the sign of the...
Ci siamo visti le tendenze di Oda, quindi tutte le fatte che lui si ripete, le cazzate. Poi tutto il pippone su Long Ring Long Land, sul fatto che Tonjit abbia 900 anni e che potrebbe essere Joy Boy, e anche che è molto simile a Davey Backfight, a Davey Jones. Poi abbiamo visto che Joy Boy allungava le isole per divertimento e che Laughtail potrebbe trovarsi all'interno di Long Ring Long Land. Poi c'è Water 7, così a caso, che è un'isola antica e sui suoi fondali c'è un poneglyph che ti indica la posizione di Uranus. Non si è capito il motivo. Poi c'è che in realtà Laughtail è nella balena e questa balena è Davy Jones. Mentre, però potrebbe essere che il nome soltanto era Davy, mentre Jones è Joy Boy, perché chiaramente è parente del signor Jones. E invece tutto quel pippone sul fatto che a Cinosu, l'isola di Rocks dove facevano i Davy Backfight, va bene. E poi non lo so, non sto capendo più un cazzo.
The world as it's supposed to be. Even as recently as chapter 1060, Brooke referenced Afro. But not just any Afro, mind you, Joy Boy's Afro. It's the sign of strength, the sign of friendship, and the sign of the world as it's supposed to be. Even as recently as chapter 1060, Brooke referenced how the swirling eddy looks just like an afro. And the eddy was just a swirling ball of water which resembles the entire planet. An entire planet without borders. The treasure is the one piece of hair that resembles the world as one piece. One without barriers like the red line that splits the world in two. A world split in two would be two-piece. And what did Luffy call Foxy?
Perché? No.
Without barriers like the red line that splits the world in two. A world split in two would be two-piece. And
ok, perché la red line divide il mondo in due, quindi one piece, two piece.
what did Luffy call Foxy during their final fight? Two-piece head. Think about that again.
Testa crepata. Oddio mio, ma che cosa stiamo guardando? Che cosa c'è? No, raga, io sto male. Sto male. E quindi il fatto che... No, sto male. L'esplosione di Hime in forma di afro. Sto malissimo.
Two-piece. If Foxy's split hair made him two-piece head to Luffy, would that make Luffy the one-piece head? You may think this is a joke, but think again
Ha vinto perché lui aveva la One Piece e quell'altro era due. Ma Dio mio.
about all the other connections I've laid out between Joy Boy and Long Ring Longland. Think about the fact that the One Piece made Roger laugh so hard that he cried. The final fight of this arc may have been a joke in our eyes, but the real joke may be how much Oda hid from us in plain sight. And is it a coincidence that Brook was also found in the same pose as Sun God Nika? The times we've seen this pose, particularly in front of the moon, have
Uguale.
been so insanely important that I think we'd just be foolish to ignore it. Brook is also so happy and cheerful, and he uses his music to put smiles on the faces of those
Se cazzo, è un depresso cronico, per quello che lui poi ha usato la risata per riceparsi. Per non morire di depressione si è dovuto
around him. Does that not sound like something that Nika would do? This could even explain why Luffy wanted a musician first and foremost. Based off the importance of Bink Sake, I feel like Joy Boy himself was probably a musician. Or at the very least, he was in a crew like the Rumbar Pirates that sang that song to their heart's content. Like I said, Brook's laugh is in the song. We were even told that afros give you power on two separate occasions, by Usopp and Sanji. Usopp has basically been proven to be a prophet at this point by having all of his lies come true, and Sanji knows plenty of things that he tends to keep under wraps. Perhaps there is actually something more to the afro than meets the eye. I mean, the afro is technically the reason that Luffy won that fight, because a piece of mirror got stuck inside of it, and this is how Luffy reflected a slow
Re e Viaggio nel Tempo are not friends anymore. Now Afro One Piece is his best friend. Sicuro, 100%. 100%.
slow beam back at Foxy. And think about the other afros that we've seen in the story. One is Sengoku, who has a Buddha fruit, and his afro gets beefier and more textured when in his Buddha form. This is more interesting when you consider the fact he's another mythical Hito user. And another
È per questo che Sengoku c'ha l'afro. Perché lui è un Buddha e quindi è illuminato.
example would actually be Gaimon, who
Anche Guy. Anche Guy.
is literally a man stuck in a treasure chest with
Oddio. Siccome lui è incastrato nello scrigno, lui è come Davy Jones. E quindi è Joy Boy. No, ragazzi, questa roba sta...
an afro that is stuck on an island with a bunch of empty treasure chests. It's as if the only treasure on that island at all is the afro itself. Shout out to Matt Cypher on Discord for bringing some of these points up, man. I mean, Oda would probably send a cease and desist if he could because of how many of his secrets get revealed in our discussions. So shout out to him. And also shout out to Rabbithead14 for being an original Afro Gang member and also posting that Sun God Brook panel the other night. But let's get back on track because we also have to consider the fact that an afro undoubtedly checks the box for something that would make the entire Roger pirate crew laugh. I mean, think about it. You travel the seas for decades, fighting powerful pirate crews and enemy marines, all to find an afro that has been left in pristine condition for centuries that can somehow supposedly turn the entire world on its head. I'd probably want to live in that guy's era too. I mean, imagine if they finally arrive, walk up to the One Piece, and it's just a grave with an afro at the top. And what's kind of funny about this is that's exactly what Brooks' crew's gravesite looks like.
C'è il parruccone. Dai, c'è il parruccone.
Like on Thriller Bark. It's a big stone cross with a skull at the top that has a giant afro made of wood.
Che cazzo sta dicendo?
After all the ties that I have mentioned between music, this dang afro, and Joy Boy, can you even rule out that this grave is just a lesser version of what we're gonna get at Laughtail? The skull even has horns, which could be a tie to oars and a hint that
Cazzo sta dicendo?
he may have been Joy Boy. And if that sounds crazy to you, well, Wizard of Oz has actually covered this in great detail over on the Marshall D. Preach channel, so I definitely
Marshall di Preach, eccolo qua l'altro.
recommend you go check that out. It's a theory that has come to grow on me more and more over the years. But as for the afro, it has to be the one thing that Joy Boy knew he couldn't lose. It was his treasure that he had to protect no matter the cost, just like Brook. If the afro is damaged, his dream can never become true, because Joy Boy knew that at some point he would return in the future and his afro would be needed to let
Sarebbe tornato nel futuro.
Davey know that he has returned. Without that, Davey could never be used for his final purpose. And maybe the reason Roger was unable to do
Quindi Rayleigh, no? Che dice, voi potreste trovare una risposta diversa al parruccone.
this himself was because Joy Boy has to wear it specifically, meaning you not only
tutto il discorso Robin che vuole scoprire le cose, Rufy, tutto il parruccone. È un parruccone.
need the afro, but to use it while in Gear 5th, which we already know is a sign that Joy Boy has returned thanks to Zunisha. So let's get back to the idea that Joy Boy's story could be Brook's story, but just on an entirely new level. Perhaps he was close friends with a whale in the past, died at some point, but knew he would come back in the future, potentially just in the form of Will or through the Devil Fruit, and the only way for Davey to recognize Joy Boy again was with his afro, just like Brook. And in the event that the One Piece did fall into the wrong hands, Joy Boy probably added Gear 5th into the mix so that only somebody with his will could command Davey. By combining these factors, he knew that only the right person would be able to use Davey for his final purpose. But what is that purpose? Why would someone want to command Davey, and what did Joy Boy have planned for the future that would enable this whale to turn the entire world on its head? Well, let's just take a look at all the other island whales that we've seen thus far and consider that they have one thing in common. They want to destroy the Red Line. And they like being sake too. The Red Line is obviously unnatural to them, and they all are trying to get rid of it. Laboon has
Cioè, alla fine tu entri nel culo della balena e trovi una parrucca. Questo ci ha detto. Cioè, 40 minuti per dirci che devi entrare nel culo della balena e trovare una parrucca.
tried for years, but is too small, and we even see other ones in the New World with the same scars. But what if we had a whale that was several magnitudes bigger than the one we've seen thus far? One that could maybe be comparable to Zunisha, and one that could be commanded by Joy Boy himself. So yes, I believe that the One Piece is an afro that Luffy needs to wear for the whale to recognize him and be
Il One Piece è un afro che Rufy deve indossare affinché la balena
commanded,
lo
much
conosca
like Zunisha,
e venga comandata proprio come Zunisha.
so that it can go and destroy the Red Line. And speaking of
Così che la balena possa andare a distruggere la Red Line.
Misha, just think about their purpose, which is literally to destroy the borders of Wano by Momo's command specifically. Maybe Davey's purpose is to destroy the borders of the entire world, the Red Line, and make the world one piece again.
E ora il commento di Oara ha ancora più senso. This is brilliant. Ma porca di quella puttana. Ma porca di quella... No, no, raga, non ci posso credere. Non ci posso credere.
Just like the AFRO of Joy Boy. I mean, think about Luffy's whole meeting with Laboon now that we've covered all of this. On literally day 0 of Luffy's journey into the Grand Line, he stopped Laboon from trying to destroy the Red Line and basically told him to wait until he gets back from the end of his journey. Brook basically did the same thing and even had to come back to life to do it. I mean, technically Luffy did the same thing. It's almost as if they won't be back until they're powerful enough to fulfill Laboon's wish and destroy that godforsaken Red Line, to make the world one piece again as it's supposed to be. And even if you don't agree with any of my conclusions, I hope that I opened your mind a little bit and taught you something that you didn't know before. And if you have something to add, I'd love to hear about it down in the comments. And please consider dropping a like because it really helps your boy out. And you should also subscribe because I'm finally starting up live reactions and also working on some other exciting stuff behind the scenes. So in the meantime, check out one of these 2 videos that you should probably already see on the screen. Later.
Mamma mia. Penso che questa sia la cosa più lercia e devo assolutamente comprarmi un afro. Amazon, vediamo. Devo comprarmelo. Afro. Eccolo qua. Parrucca Jimmy, nero, look afro. 5 euro. Questo articolo non è idoneo alla consegna al locker. Maledizione. Maledizione. Io voglio che me la mandino al locker. Deve andare per forza al locker. Adesso la metto nel carrello. Vediamo se me la faccio mandare. Procedi all'ordine. Ora compro l'afro. Per forza. Continua. No, non voglio che me lo mandi a casa, voglio che me lo mandi al locker. Ah, perché non è venduto da Amazon, ecco perché non me lo può mandare. Porca mignotta, non posso farmelo mandare a casa, non c'è mai nessuno, poi c'è un casino a casa. Vai il carrello. No, devo cercare un afro, devo cercare assolutamente un afro. Devo comprare un afro. Venduto da Amazon, consegna Prime, ricevi domani. Porca puttana, qua di roba per domani non c'è niente. Non c'è solo quello. C'è solo quello che era fantastico. Niente, devo far mandare a casa. Poi lo compro. Poi lo compro. Il re con l'afro è qualcosa di cui non sapevamo di avere bisogno. No, lo devo prendere. Per 5 euro me lo compro assolutamente. Assolutamente. Il parruccone. Che poi è brutto perché non mi dicono nemmeno, non posso mandarlo neanche nei punti poste o... Porca miseria. Lo faccio mandare a mia mamma. Perfetto. Lo mando in negozio. No, non posso, sennò poi devo averlo su. Dopo cerco qualcosa. Devo cercarlo assolutamente. Allora, basta. Adesso vado a cercare l'afro. Devo per forza, assolutamente. No, io penso di non aver mai visto niente di più letale. Cioè, la teoria del tempo, il viaggio nel tempo è veramente una manna al confronto. Una manna. No, incredibile. Incredibile. Io ci credo. Io adesso ormai continuerò su questa via. Viaggio nel tempo e AFRO. Cioè Rufy tornando indietro nel tempo ha lasciato l'AFRO di Brook, che Brook è morto, e l'ha lasciato nel passato, affinché la Boone nel futuro potesse avere ancora... avesse il tesoro nel culo, nascosto nel culo. È perfetto. È perfetto. È perfetto. Basta. È tempo di andare a riflettere. È tempo di andare a riflettere. Ragazzi, io vi ringrazio i 140 che sono rimasti qua con me fino alla fine. Eroi davvero, schifate quelli che ci hanno lasciato prima del tempo, che si sono persi la vera rivelazione. Vergognatevi, vergognatevi. Domani vi aspetto per leggere insieme Hunter x Hunter, proseguiamo la lettura, volume 12 e dovrebbe iniziare anche il 13, e poi vediamo se giovedì facciamo qualcosa, altrimenti venerdì alle 14:30 per il 1062. O 60, sì, 62. Io vi saluto, ringrazio Sabatino per essersi riabbonato, grazie Seva, vecchio cuore. Sava, scusa, non Seva, Sava. Scusami, sono flippato, sono flippatissimo. Vi saluto, a domani, alla prossima. Un abbraccio, ciao ragazzi, ciao.